drones are fighting drones are fighting people are fighting drones. So Terminator to a certain extent, if you like, scenario.
Welcome to the podcast, Pavel. It's an honor to have you here, and it's also honor to have you as our portfolio company within Funding Frontier. Let's get into the story.
Ukraine, everybody sees that the solution which was working 6 months ago is not necessarily efficient anymore, right? The world changes so fast that it makes sense to invest in strategic directions, but solutions itself should be highly adjustable. And that's not always the case with Western solutions.
Were there any other domains or ideas that you were exploring that you didn't pursue because you chose this road?
Yeah, nuclear weapons for Ukraine, so that would probably be a very efficient tool.
Space is humanity's greatest laboratory. Defense is democracy's strongest shield. And today, in workshops, in laboratories, in startups, a new generation rises, not to observe history, but to write it, where every innovation above drives progress below, where every breakthrough in defense preserves our freedom to create. Behind every breakthrough stands a founder with a story. Now these stories emerge to light the path for those who follow. Welcome to Rockets and Radars.
Before we get into the history since the very beginning, if you can tell us in a few sentences what Angler actually does and is for people that might not know you yet.
All right. So thank you very much for having me here. It's a great pleasure to be on the show and to have you as an investor, both. So from the perspective of what we are building a hybrid maritime drone, which is capable of operations both on the surface of the water and below the water. And below the water, it doesn't have contact with the operator, so it uses independent decision making, or AI, if you wish, to make decisions underwater. So this is a smart mini submarine capable of various application scenarios and doing a lot of useful things under the water and on the surface.
Amazing intro. And I want to understand also the personal side of this whole story. So my question would be, who is Pavel when he's not building maritime drones?
I'm usually riding my bicycle, I guess.
Well,
but
that's fair enough.
But other than that, so I have experience in building a couple of companies and in Central and Eastern Europe. They range from marketing and advertisement agencies to something like ferroalloy supply industry. And most recently, I was very interested in energy efficient technologies. So we were and we're still building an efficient cooling solution, a green cooling solution. Also have a company which is developing a clean water supply system. So there was a lot of interest, but with the start of full-scale Russian aggression in Ukraine, we, of course, turned our primary attention to what can be done in that regard to help fight off the aggressor. And maritime drones seems to be back at the time very interesting area to go into. And that's basically how we started discussion about whether we can build something meaningful in that direction.
Amazing. Let's also get into the details. But before we get there, your path is very interesting because it's another typical DefenceTech founder story. If I'm right, you are not a former military guy, so you don't come out of a defense contractor firm, right? And you weren't building drones as a hobby in your garage, were you, before?
No, but I am very keen to learn about military history. So that's
Okay.
something
There is
what I
some
like
aspect.
very, very much, right? And I was quite lucky because my colleague, my co-founder right now, Alex, he is a drone builder, and together with him, first months we were just sitting and developing the concepts and trying to build something which can help Ukraine to fight off Russia. And we saw a lot of development in aerial drones, and he has over 10 years of building various types of drones and electronic equipment, so to say. So we said, out of all the directions where we want to go, what would be the one with the most potential in the future? So something which we can apply not only in Ukraine but in other markets. And seas always been crucial for controlling who has access to what. And we saw what was happening in the Black Sea with the rapid development of Ukrainian surface drones. But we started thinking a little bit ahead of that, thinking what should be the next step, what the warfare would be, say, in 10, 15 years. It is said that military is always preparing to the war which was already fought, right? And we were trying to prepare to the future war. So we're thinking what is going to be the phase of the next
So how
conflict
do you
and how
see the current future of warfare in all domains? How do you see this evolving as a founder that is in this industry?
I mean, from the point of view of how and the direction in which it is going, we already see this in Ukraine. So the initial conflict was all about tanks, artillery, so there was very little done with in terms of the drone warfare, with the exception of Bayraktar, which are not military drones, they are police drones. But it was already shown by application of these tools how efficient it can be. And right now we see that even initial fire contacts on the front line, they are happening using drones. So drones are fighting drones, drones are fighting people, people are fighting drones. So Terminator to a certain extent, if you like,
Well,
scenario, right? But we see this happening more and more, and this is not only our apprehension of the situation. We have a couple of advisors on board, and they were developing a concept of so-called mosquito fleet or mosquito navy long before the active part of the war started. So we see that a lot of people are thinking in that direction. It's just the matter of who gets it there and who gets there with the proper and most suitable product.
okay, great. And regarding the mosquito fleet, for those that might not know what it is, can you explain to the audience the concept a bit more in depth, if you can?
Basically, you don't build big boats or like air carriers and stuff like that. So you build a lot of small boats which can be equipped either with small caliber firearms or detonation devices, but you build a lot of them. So and basically you swap the enemy with the quantity of that. Also, Ukraine is a perfect example because Ukraine doesn't have a fleet to speak about. So there were a couple of vessels, but majority of the Black Sea fleet was captured by Russians in 2014. So we have to get creative in terms of what tools we might afford to fight off the much stronger enemy. And in this regard, this fight between naval drones and Russian Black Sea fleet is an exemplary case, because we can see what these small drones, what relatively cheap tools can do to much more expensive vessels.
Okay, interesting. We covered the past version of a warfare, the current one. And what is the upcoming future 10, 15 years from now on? Where do you see it evolving?
I still think it's going to go in the direction of automation. the operation of monitoring of sea denial operations. By sea denial, we mean that you block off part of the sea to the enemy or to a certain party, so nobody can enter this zone. And that will be done with the help of robotic tools, with the help of drones. Um, I see personally no need to invest in big ships anymore because something which is which has a cost of hundreds of millions of euro dollar right now can be sunk with something which is worth $500,000. So everything will go in the direction of automation. Everything will go in the direction of preserving human life. So we see that both in civil and military application right now. One drone operator can control huge area and not only control in terms of collecting information, and see what's going on there, but literally preventing others from entering that space. And probably as a next step, we're going to see warfare of drones against drones. So people will play less and less important, so to say, direct role in these engagements. Simply because it's cheaper, simply because human life is too expensive, too important, and expensive. Yeah, because people are expensive. Drones are cheaper.
Thank you for the insight. And I would love to get back into the story, especially to the initial moment when you decided that maritime drones is a sector you want to get in, as you believed in the impact it could produce within 10 to 15 years from that moment. And I'm curious, were there any other domains or ideas that you were exploring that you didn't pursue because you chose this road that you chose?
Yeah, nuclear weapons for Ukraine, so that would probably be a very efficient tool. And yeah, I believe that was a mistake to give up those weapons back in the past. But nonetheless, yeah, of course, we were considering what can be done. But in terms of conventional weapons, we stand no chance because, as a startup or a group of engineers, so to say, you will not start building tanks. All right, so you can build ground robots, but they'll still be much cheaper. You don't have access to explosives. Normally, you don't have access to, I don't know, all this standard military grade equipment. So you try to improvise. And that's actually where I believe we saw how a smaller nation can be very resourceful. Okay, so we literally turned speedboats into weapons, right? And right now we want to take it a little bit further, make submarines out of it. Yeah. So and somehow this concept of smart sub, so unmanned sub, was very appealing to us. And we saw that it can, with relatively low resources, make very big impact. So and that's why we were focusing on this.
Great. Very interesting
this
way
story.
of thinking. What is just something that we can produce for as least capital as possible to get to as big impact as possible? So great to share that thinking with me. Thank you so for sharing. And what I want to get into your head right now is that there might be some people right now listening that might want to get into defense tech as well to create an impact. As many people have said to me in many conversations, what can I do, Martin? Where should I spend my attention? What would be your advice to them where people that want to get into defense tech and might have a background, might not, where they should spend their time and attention right now in the technological sector, at least?
That's a very difficult question. It's very wide, but basically, it boils down to demand and supply. All right. So whatever is necessary on the market right now, that's what you should pay attention to. I remember that at the very beginning of 2022, when just first months of the war were raging, we were collecting medkits, all right? And we thought that this would be, so because like as a person, as a private person, you start thinking like what you can help with. So it was medkits, cars, so we were buying some ammunition, bulletproof vests, things like that. And later it just shifted to more complicated products, to actually building a product, not buying something and supplying your friends in the army with that. So that represents a shift in mentality as well. You don't think already in short-term goals or short-term needs, what shall be supplied out there, but you start to think in what tools could be brought to change the scale of the conflict, to change the character of the conflict. And if these tools and if these products can be identified early, then I believe that's something to pay attention to. Right. So
Okay,
everybody's
great.
speaking, but yeah. Go ahead.
And you mentioned that look at what the industry or market needs, and then look into supplying it. But in your case, at least a few minutes earlier, you mentioned that you were looking at where the battlefield is going to be in 10 to 15 years, right? So everything that you have built until now is going to serve the future market, right? So what would be your perspective there, how people should know or understand how the battlefield is going to look like, and what products that they could develop in their garages could potentially be solutions to either end the conflict or contribute in some way?
Well, to a certain extent, I would say that we didn't develop anything new. All right. So what we just did, there were mini submarines in the past. They were just human controlled, right? So there were speedboats in the past. They're also human controlled. What we're actually doing, we're trying to make a tool which will not which will de-risk the human operator, right? So, and we will allow a human to control and perform certain tasks using a tool, or using a piece of equipment. So that was our key motivation there, and we were also trying to create something which will shift the balance of power in a specific theater. So that was our approach. We were just looking for this opportunity, but to a certain extent, we started in a garage, like a group of people, like every big, so they like to say it, American corporation, like Hewlett Packard, Google, so Apple. They started in a garage, building a product which they had a vision for. So that exactly happened with us. One thing which we did slightly differently. So we already started talking to military guys.
Even before you started to build anything?
Even before we had a product, we had an idea.
Okay.
So and we started talking to them whether it makes sense to them. All right. So and we and they said, yeah, like nothing like that exists, and if you're able to build it cheap enough, then we might be interested in this type of solution. And here, where we see another like very important lesson from what is happening in Ukraine right now, the product should be cheap, good enough and cheap enough, right? So there is no need to bring their, strategic bombers, or high tech or super, how they call super drones, right? Like something really, really big. This is a war of attrition, and basically every war is a war of attrition. So if you're able to supply a lot of relatively cheap but good enough tools, so that that will win. Just yesterday, I read a very interesting article that soldiers' rations win the war, not tanks. So and that has a very big meaning because it's all about logistics. It's all about the numbers. So, well, unless you have a nuclear bomb, then it's all about people and
That's the exception. Yeah.
how
Okay.
you operate it.
And you nudged my next question a bit is when you started to build in garage, walk me through how that actually happened. You starting to work on this idea. You mentioned that the war start was directly connected with you starting this company, but can you give us a bit more detail? What was going on in the moment when you decided, let's do this?
Ukrainian drones in the Black Sea was something what inspired us to a great deal. But as I mentioned, so we saw that there was going to be a limitation. So there was going to be a certain limit of the development just with the surface drones. So we started looking, and we started looking also for some historical examples what can be done in that regard, and we saw some historical parallels during Second World War. Italians, for example, they had a unit which was called Flotilla Decima, 10th Fleet, and those were so-called frogmen, right? So, and they used mini submarines to get somewhere. So our idea was basically there, all right, let's build something similar, which will be cheap enough and which will transport some valuable cargo to a certain destination, right? So the next question was whether we can do it, and we started looking for people who were able to support us in building a proof of concept, in building some smaller prototype, if you wish, or a demonstrator, which firstly would answer a question to ourselves, whether we can build something like that or it's just a dream. And for 8 months, we were building our first small drone, 1.6 meter long. And when we finally built it, we took it to some water, first to lakes and then to the sea, and we started doing some missions with it. So seeing whether it can operate or not. And we saw that we are successfully able to submerge. We submerged multiple times. We were able to take it through predefined routes. We were able to communicate with it. So as a matter of fact, we built this first product. And we said that, all right now we feel potential to go bigger, to start talking to other people and maybe open up a little bit to our potential clients and say, yes, look, we have something like this. It's not just a presentation. It's not just slides of PowerPoint. Yeah, but we already have something tangible. You can come, we'll show it to you. And that I think worked very well. That worked nicely. We were able to sparkle interest from Ukrainian military, from other clients in Europe as well. And then other potential scenarios of application, like monitoring of sea infrastructure, patrolling, search and rescue, demining. All these scenarios started to pile up, and we were overwhelmed with how many things can be done in that regard with the tool we planned. And that was really a great moment. Even right now, we are limiting ourselves because we have like 3 more lineups of other products in our ads, but we just have to say, like, stop. Let's concentrate on what we're doing.
There's this saying that I used to tell myself: you can do anything, but you cannot do everything. Right.
That's right.
Especially if you have a lot of different things to do. Okay, great. I want to get into the more details in a very first month of the journey. You mentioned him already, but I would love to know the story more. Oleksandr, who is now your co-founder, how did you two meet? Or to what made you think this is the person I need to build this with? I'm very curious about the story there as well.
Oh, that's easy. So we work together.
Oh, okay.
All right. Yes. So
You
we
work together
were.
where, in the previous companies, or
Yeah, we were colleagues in the previous company. He was one of the engineers, and he's very creative guy. He actually built. So I saw him build stuff. All right, so I saw
okay?
him creating things in our lab. So we have a kind of a small R&D center, and then yeah, in your free time you can build things there. So he built an electric motorbike there. So by himself. So and I said, all right, so this looks cool and the bike is cool. So I say maybe we can develop something else, right? And the inspiration, inspiration is a bad word, but the situation was such that everybody was thinking in military terms, and still are thinking so. And we said, all right, so maybe this domain, maritime domain, would be interesting for us. And also, luckily, talk about coincidences. He is a maritime engineer, so he
Oh,
has
there you go.
education in that regard. So he is all-in-one, right? So he is a drone builder. He has very good experience, and he is knowledgeable in constructing vessels. So to a certain extent, it was a match, if you wish, made in heaven.
A good match,
So
a great match.
yeah.
And I'm very curious, hypothetically, if you didn't know Oleksandr from before, how would you approach finding the person or people that would join you in the very beginning?
Uh, that's probably the most difficult part. Finding proper people is extremely difficult, and back in the day, it was also extremely difficult simply because we had our R&D facility in Ukraine, and all of a sudden people were gone. Okay, because somebody was in the army, somebody left, some people were evacuated abroad, and basically you just very often all the connections which you had in your peaceful uh, reality, so they're not working. But there, it's something where you utilize the network. We don't go on LinkedIn looking for people, and posting jobs. But you start talking to your friends and friends of your friends, so, and somebody who is more knowledgeable um, in certain areas like military application, right? Like maritime engineers. So you start looking for that. And surprisingly, we found good people.
Yeah, yet despite this hard situation that your country and yourself went through, you mentioned finding a group of supporters that helped you to get into the first prototype. How did you find those people in the first place, aside of the co-founder? I'm very curious there as well.
So we, from our past experience, we had engineers, we had people we worked with in different formats as colleagues, as B2B suppliers, and very often, without telling them explicitly what we're building, we ask them, "Hey, are you willing to do this type of calculation for us, or do this type of simulation?" So, as we started building, people were more and more interested in what we are developing, and some of them were expressing interest to join
Interesting.
our team
Hmm.
as on a full-time basis, so to say.
And how do you talk about something without revealing what you are actually building?
It's difficult because people are smart. So everybody understands like what you're building, but to a certain extent, you are able to limit the information flow with the NDAs. Um, However, the best idea is to start working with people you are able to trust and stay under the radar uh, for as long as you can. Right. So for us, it was a period of 9 months when we were completely self-funded. And we basically didn't spread any information about the project. Okay, so we were talking only to our military contacts. We're talking to suppliers regarding, so bits and pieces of what we needed for construction of the first prototype. But then, of course, time comes when you need to go public with the information about the project, and specifically if you are going a classic startup way, and that is you need to talk to investors, right? You need to attract some capital if it's dilutive capital. Yeah.
And before we get into your fundraising that went pretty well, I also want to understand the military conversations that you have had, also in the very beginning when you were trying to figure that out if this is a good idea. How did you approach those folks? And I would love to also pick your brain a bit for people that might not know how to get access to those people. What would be your advice to them? How to test their ideas with the right people that can tell them if they should pursue it or not?
That's an excellent question. We had a certain strategy. We had an idea which we decided to pursue, and it worked very well for us. So we started talking to embassies, and we started talking to military attaches in embassies, and we asked them for meetings, presenting with the project. So, and for us that worked. All right, so that worked. We were able to talk to decision makers and obtain some valuable network. So basically, that was it.
Okay, super interesting. Thank you for sharing that. In 2024, after a few months of building the first prototype, things are getting real. You are moving from a concept to actual hardware in the water. And in the very beginning of this year, if I got it right from your pitch, like you raised from friends and family as investors in the very beginning. Yes. What's the real story behind this first fundraising effort? How do you raise from friends and family?
Well, family is easy, right? So you have access to their bank accounts.
Yeah, that's
no,
straightforward.
I'm just joking, of course. But from the point of view of family and friends, yeah. So we were trying to support them, and not necessarily with to support us, not necessarily with money, but also with their time. So. Even to give you an example, so we knew a designer and we asked them, hey guys, can you help us to build our first pitch deck, right? So, and they did it for free, so, and that's there you go. So that's also a cost, so otherwise you need to pay for the service. So from this perspective, but we also needed to build a hardware unit, so it's not just a laptop with a code on it. So we had to buy a lot of tools, a lot of things, and therefore we said to ourselves that let's build this, let's finish this project, and we have a certain time period. And if we see that we are able to answer a key question for ourselves, whether this is doable, and whether it makes sense. So if we answer this question in a given period of time and within a given budget, then we will go further and pursue this idea. And we were lucky to have understanding, with families, so and support. So yeah, we were able to collect the necessary amount to construct the drone.
Great story. And in 2024, what decisions you made to go from a prototype to at least TRL4, right? Product, or TRL5 already?
TRL4, yes, so to say, yes, to TRL6. So funding. Funding was the decision we had to make, how to approach that funding.
Outside of the
previous
family and friends run, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything sea related, all maritime technologies there extremely expensive. Well, they are times 10 comparing to what you do on the land, right? So therefore, it was a big decision, and when we calculated the budget, we saw the need to start talking to investors. We pulled up a list of investors, and we basically just started calling. Also, we participated in several events. One of them was European Defense Fund Info Days. They were held in Poland. So these EDF days were very instrumental in obtaining business cards. Okay, so and then started talking to people. And aside from talking to investors, to pure investors, we were also able to talk to military guys. So military guys from various countries.
Around Europe.
So not only Europe, but and everybody said, "Well, this is a cool idea. We haven't heard about a project like that." So, and we said, "All right, so that might prove that we have something special here." And basically, we started talking to investors. Everybody was very scary about DefenceTech. So it's not like now. So it's
What are we
2026.
talking? What year are we talking? 2020.
We're talking about 2023. Okay, so start of 2023, 2024. So everybody was scared about DefenceTech. Even dual use was like no. So so people were, So right now we have a lot of databases, so you can pull up a list of companies who are supposed to, or supposedly they claim that they invest in dual use, but you talk to them and no. So basically, it's too risky. So people are trying.
So
to be very
the
careful.
fundraising at that period must have been so hard, because one thing was talking about support, and one thing was actually investing in this industry. So I'm very curious, how did you filter the firms to talk to? I'm not sure if you talk with all of the firms on the list, or if you cherry picked the right people to talk to. I'm very curious how you thought about what was your approach to get to the right people.
Well, to begin with, in Europe, there were not that many VCs or investors investing in dual use or DefenceTech, so to say. So it was not a very big or hard effort. There were about like 20, 30 companies back in the day. It's right now that there are more. And of course, then you start researching, basically looking at what are those funds, what are their tickets, how much are they investing, whether it at all makes sense to invest to that. Then, of course, there is security issues. So you don't work with VCs who have ties to your enemy, right? Or who have Russian money in that. So that's a big no-go. And then basically we're left with a couple of contacts. And most of them are cold contacts, so you're basically just shooting an email to a guy at LinkedIn profile or through a contact form on their webpage, and the success rate there is extremely low, or response rate is extremely low. So therefore, we had also a different strategy. We tried to utilize different demo days or pitch competitions, where we were able to address larger audience. And that actually worked for us very well. Our first investor. So we met them during one of this pitching competition, and it happened that they were looking for a project in maritime domain, and we were basically there talking to them about what we are able to build and how we're going to build it. And they said, "All right, so this sounds interesting, and let's get talking."
A few months later, you actually closed the round, also with us, Funny Frontier, but also others like MITS or Stenima. And I'm trying to understand also, how did you get that deal come through? Apart from the investor that you mentioned that you met at the pitch competition, how did you get introduced, and how did you approach the whole process from the very beginning until the investment was made? And I'm asking this because there might be a lot of people here listening that might be already in the industry, are trying to build stuff, but they have no idea how to get from A to a closed deal, if you know what I mean.
Uh, uh, Yes, that's always a mystery to me how these things happen. Okay, because there is no recipe. Okay, so there are markets where this thing work in more or less predicted way, but here it's about that initial contact, about the impression which you make. That's why they say like have this elevator 30-second pitch ready all the time that you're able to deliver and explain your project to anyone. But there are specific events, and again, so I'm coming back to this networking tips which you might have utilized to deliver your idea to a larger number of people. So I mentioned these military attaches with whom we spoke, then different pitching competitions, pitching events where we talk to investors, and then there are chambers of commerce. And actually, one of the Norwegian Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce in Kiev was the event where I met you guys. Uh, we were in very comfortable position where we were in a room with potential partners who came there to hear about new opportunities, what can be done, what can be constructed. And this is when we exchange cards and said that first contacts were initiated. So yeah, so this is how
No.
how it worked.
Simple, straightforward. Thank you for sharing that. And one big milestone I want to talk about as well is when you register the company in the Czech Republic, Prague. I'm very curious, why did you decide to incorporate in Czech Republic after all?
But yeah, we wanted to be the first to build a Czech Navy. Yeah, so given their geographical position, that would be a lucrative position to start with. But honestly, we knew the legislative background, the financial background in the Czech Republic, and we saw the amount of support which was given by the country to Ukraine in the initial days of war. So we said that from a long-term perspective, it would be a good match of investment climate and say relationship between quality and price of works, right? So yeah, of course you're able to go to France, you're able to go to US, but everything becomes exponentially more expensive. Right. So and here we were close enough. We had access to engineers, we had access to people. So we said let's concentrate there, because at that point of time it was very instrumental for us to get good use out of those resources, that investment round which we raised, and that was the good opportunity.
Interesting, because most of the Ukrainian startups in defense tech that I talked to incorporate in Estonia. So this is a pretty refreshing story to hear, to incorporate based on several factors that you just mentioned. Have you actually considered Estonia as a potential domicile as well?
We did a research. I even still have a table where we have like factors scaled, so and so we scored every country. And we were ranging from Portugal to Estonia, actually.
Okay,
so
interesting.
yeah. So, but I believe also a big factor is that you tend to make decisions or to favor decisions or options which you know. And I know Czech Republic quite well. So for me, it was understandable how to organize and set up a company there.
It wasn't an option to not leave Ukraine from a fundraising perspective. What do you think?
Well, basically, yes and no. For the purposes of security, a lot of investors directly demanded that you establish a presence in EU.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right. So we see what is happening right now, that every time, and that's also a part why we were so much undercover. So every time you publish a picture on social media, So people are able to identify where the picture was taken, and the next day you can expect a bombing, or a strike. So from this point of view, and especially given the fact that we have to be in a pretty predictable location, which is close to the water. So we said, we have to have forward presence. And that
Okay,
was
interesting. I like your research-driven approach. Since the very beginning of the company, you always did the research and decided based on what data you got. So I really like that. Okay, great. A next topic that I really want to talk about is customers or contracts. You have signed MOUs with Brim Boats in Faroe Islands, to Summer Defense in Finland, and now we are in discussions with BAE Systems, Tekever, Nortec, and more. How do you get those meetings? How do you make people to support you from the commercial perspective as well in DefenceTech, which is something that is not being discussed that much?
Very often we met people during different events, boot camps and things like that, and that's how we started talking to them. We also spread information about project to. I believe our communication strategy was very targeted. So we knew whom we would like to talk to, and we sent a message to them. Of course, a lot of the names you mentioned, they are very early discussions. But what works well, and we actually see this happening right now, that everybody is very much interested in the sea technologies or so tools you can apply for maritime drones. So very often we are able to establish, if not say a joint venture level of relationship, then just cooperating where we get some tools in exchange for data, right? So and that builds a basis for a relationship where we are able to have active cooperation with the supplier, and very often that supplier has connection to their own Ministry of Defense, so and they were able to introduce us. So that's actually another way. Find a local partner or recommendation. Find a local partner who's able to introduce you quickly into the ecosystem. And DefenceTech is very close to ecosystem. So the sooner you're able to have those partners, the faster you're able to move ahead.
Okay,
it's also
so
the
sales
case
through,
with you.
Yeah. Sales through partnerships. All of the relationship that you have made, team-wise, investor-wise, is through. Let's talk about it through relationships. So again, I really like that approach, and I'm also very curious, based on the talks that you have had, either with potential partners or potential customers. How do you sell your product that, if I'm right, at this current moment hasn't been done as a version 1 of a product that would get on the waters in a battlefield environment, right?
Yeah. So first of all, we are really close. So it's a matter of weeks, and that's a very exciting moment for us to be at. But we're not speaking about selling the product per se yet, because we still have to define what is the proper product for a proper client. To give an example, even basic technical requirements for the Black Sea would be different comparing to technical requirements for the Baltic Sea. I'm not talking even about the Greenland, right? So it will be like completely different universes. Well, maybe not completely, it's still water, but weather conditions are different, waves are different, so distances are different. So from that point of view, you'll have to adjust, and only after you understand what is necessary, what your client requires, then you're able to build it, to offer them the product, and to sell them this product. And this is where, again, getting into these discussions with local partner is instrumental. So that saves so much time. So people are able to make introductions, people are able to give you hints, people are able to give you information directly, and then you are coming up with a solution which is necessary for this or that client. And this is what we like about what we built. So it's a platform. It can be adjusted to many different use cases and many different users, and we can modify it so that it fits different scenarios.
Again, interesting approach of trying to go broad, but at the same time nail down the use case or application once you get closer to the customer and use case. Again, very good perspective here. Right now, do you have a paying customer yet, or when do you expect to have a first paying customer, and who is going to be that in your opinion?
This year, and unfortunately I cannot disclose any names, but we already are in quite advanced negotiations.
Okay, great. We'll talk about it later once you get them on board. Then I would love to understand the future of you as a company of Angular, but at the same time of a future of an industry from this point in time. How do you see it evolving? On the company side, where are you going in short term and long term? And on the industry side, where do you see it as well in short and long term?
Well, our strategy is to develop a line of products, solutions, which would address, which would be appealing to global clients. And we would like to scale fast. From the point of view of what we see right now as a path for this scaling is not investing into one specific production line or production center, if you wish, but rather finding these joint venture opportunities with partners who are better than me in this or that aspect, so that we are able to create a joint added value. And it can be a partner in Denmark with their innovative house. It can be a partner, I don't know, in the Netherlands with 3D printing of a whole solution. We have a partner in Portugal with biomimetic propeller. So there are all these kind of opportunities. And right now we just signed a very interesting opportunity in France. So we are looking into these partnerships as something which will help us to evolve and to scale quickly, but at the same time not necessarily raising dozens of millions of euro to do that, right? So the idea is to still remain pretty small and agile company, group of people, but to have a network of partners to build the thing together.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your perspectives and a full story. And I'm very looking forward to the launch. Now let's get into a few quick fire round questions that are a bit outside of the story, but I'm still very curious on what are your thoughts on that. So let's get into the first one. What is the biggest misconception investors have about defense tech that drives you crazy?
Investors in general are expecting a return on their investment. That's all right, but it's very difficult to do when you don't have sales yet. So it's not. Well, that's a comparison I don't like, but United States is very different from Europe. United States invest in the future, or investors in United States invest in the future. European investors are more like bankers. They invest or lend you money to expand your sales. And that's where I believe that majority of them think that defense tech is very long term. So as it is proven right now in Ukraine, very often if you have even a concept of the product, that concept can be successful and can find their application niche. So it's not that long anymore. So market is changing.
Awesome.
And
Next
that's
one.
probably the discussion.
Very good answer. Next one. What's the one thing every defense tech pitch deck gets wrong in your opinion?
I think that's the degree of disclosing the technology, the idea, because it's a defense tech, so you're not supposed to say a lot, but at the same time you have to say information about like what you're building, because like why do you have a deck otherwise? So maybe that balance is something which we ourselves often underestimate. All right, so we tell too much, okay, or to wrong
Okay.
people.
Okay. What do you think then is the right balance based on everything that you have experienced in the last years?
The balance should be adjusted according to the public you speak to. All right. So if you speak to military, then you probably can say more. If you speak to general public, then keep it entertaining.
Okay, good. Now it's a prediction time. In 10 years, what do you think? What percentage of naval warfare is going to be fought by autonomous system versus humans?
I think majority. And large majority in like 90% and more. Not everywhere, because there are still regions where human life is not valued. But in majority of the countries, specifically if we talk about EU, I think drones will take over.
Okay, great. Next one. What is the one thing Ukrainian startups and founders understand about defense that Western founders are completely blind to?
Speed and affordability of the solutions, right? So right now we still, and this is so painful, we see all these programs, all these investments going into like 5-10-year-old developments, right? And in Ukraine, everybody sees that the solution which was working 6 months ago is not necessarily efficient anymore, right? So that the world changes so fast that it makes sense to invest in strategic directions, but solutions itself should be highly adjustable. And that's not always the case with Western solutions.
Great. Okay, next one. What's the most important thing you have learned while building Angular that you cannot learn from anywhere else? Any books or anything out there?
Proper budgeting cannot be overestimated, right? So because
Yeah.
there are always extra costs, so specifically in this area.
Very basic, but very underestimated nowadays when
Yes.
you have to think about so many things. Okay, great. And the last one, what's the first thing you will do when Ukraine wins the war?
I'll probably go and see some of our relatives, and they are quite close to the front line right now. So that I'd love to do.
Awesome. And just to close this episode, for founders watching this in defense tech, hardware, whatever, what is the one thing about your journey they should take to heart? In other words, what is the one thing people should take out of this 1 hour of the conversation?
Think big, okay? There are no small projects, okay? Every market or every project, every idea can be big. Right. So, but yeah. So life is just too short to try doing small things. Shoot for the stars.
Life is too short. Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining me here.